It's time for some PBA Regional action here in Missouri. Our last stop of this PBA trip is in Missouri, the PBA Pete Weber Missouri Open. Before we start that, there is a little PBA Regional a little bit further south in Missouri. In case you don't know, the PBA has multiple levels. There's the National Tour, that's where you see all the televised tournaments, that's where you see all my other videos from. And then there's the Regional Tour. The Regional Tour is much smaller. Basically, there's tournaments all over the US, in Sweden now also, I think there's also in Japan. They're basically aimed at the regional player, the players that aren't quite good enough to make it on the national tour yet, but they can kind of learn from the regional program and advance up into the national tour. Tournaments are obviously smaller, prize funds are smaller, but they're still pretty decent. This one, we're in Carthage, Missouri. It's basically a regional fit in between the national tour stop in Chicago and the national tour stop in Springfield, Missouri. One thing to note about this regional is that because it's between two tour stops, there's a lot of national tour guys in the field here, so it's a really strong field for a regional. A lot of times the regionals will more have like the guys you see in the PTQ or up and coming guys or like local guys bowling, and then a few national tour players if it fits their schedule or if it's close to their home or whatever. But I think this weekend, it's going to be a really strong field. We have Tom Doherty, Nate Purchase, Chris Sloan, Richie Cheese, Jake Peters. I'm forgetting a bunch of guys too, but we have a really strong field here. So it's really great that we get something extra to bowl by having this regional here. Entry fee is $245. I believe first place prize is $3,000. Last to cash is $500, I think. 1 and 3 cash. So there's like 65. So they're paying 22-ish. 7 games of qualifying, 2 squads. So it's going to be interesting. We're bowling on the Scorpion pattern. It's 44 feet this week. And here in Carthage feels like a little bit newer surface. Definitely not as early and burned up as some of the other surfaces we bowl on. So the ball makes it through the front part of the lane pretty easily. Today we had practice. I felt like I had a look from out that actually was pretty good. Iron Max, Sublime Focus, those balls look pretty good from out there. But there was also a look from in. Again, Iron Max, Attention Star S2, Sublime Focus, Equinox. Those balls look pretty good from in too. So I'm not sure if it only played from out because of the fact they had the house shut down before our practice session, or if that's actually somewhere you can play. I think the scores are going to be okay. I don't think they're going to be through the roof. Feels like there's room to work with wherever you choose to play, but it's not the unlimited hold or unlimited hook. You could definitely go light, you could definitely go through the face. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think a lot of players are going to be hooking it a lot just simply because the ball retains energy, so it hooks on the back. And if you don't get it to slow down enough in the right spot, you could be in some trouble with some ball reaction that's too clean. All right, so qualifying here in Carthage, the regional went really well. Ended up qualifying 6th. Got off to a really, really good start. Had the high game in our squad, game 1, high game, game 2, and then kind of lost it a little bit, but without getting myself into too much trouble. I started out playing out pretty close to the gutter and had a really, really good look with an Iron Max, just really trying to get the ball rolling forward. Shot 279, had a weak 10 in the middle of the game. Move over to the next pair, had a really bad shot in the middle of the game, struck every other shot for 262. Again, Iron Max just trying to get to roll forward, had a really, really good look. Come over to the next pair, a little bit tighter, so kind of had to make a few adjustments, but made some good ones, got 228 with a bad shot in the 10th. So starting to lose my look a little bit out there, but if I made good shots, I still struck every time. Come down to the low end, scores weren't very high in general, and a lot of people were playing the middle part of the lane. It was 44 feet after all. I just kept trying to play out, go down to the low end hooks quite a bit more, but I managed to move my feet a little bit and try to do some things with my hand, a little bit of loft to stay out, and I shoot 220. So it felt like I still had some. I go back up to the high end, which to me, at least on the cutter, it seemed like the high end was the tighter of the ends. And this is where I started getting a little bit in trouble. So I threw a bad shot frame 2, left a weak 10 frame 4, and then went light the next 2 shots trying to get my balls to do the right thing off the cutter. So had to go away from the gutter basically everyone. Scores were starting to be a little bit better from the middle part of the lane, so I probably should have made the move a little earlier, but when you're averaging 250 and you still feel like you have a look from out, it's really hard to go away from that. So I move in, and I get pretty fortunate because I had a pretty bad game going, and I make a 25 board jump left with my face 2 and get a 6-bagger. And it was threw some pretty good shots there, also threw a couple that was left that I didn't think was going to hold, but luckily they did. They struck, and I bailed out 208 in game 5, so that was a good 208. And we go down to the low end, start out with a double, and I think, all right, this looks good, and then it just started hitting a little flat. Like I had got one right, and it kind of didn't get back, and had a couple like late 10 pins, and then a 7-10, and then it started to get in trouble. So the phase 2 just it didn't necessarily look too early. It just kind of didn't do the right thing when it got to the pins. Like it would be a little light. If it got right, it didn't really want to come back and hit flat. So at the pins, it was pretty obvious that it was running out of steam. It just didn't look like it on the lane, which I will say, in general, I felt like a lot of the motions I saw looked a little long or a little clean, but you also needed to get your ball down the lane a little bit towards the end. Otherwise, it would just be, you couldn't really carry. So on the fill shot, I did double in the 10th, and then in fill shot, I go to my DNA coil, which I figured if I went to a little bit stronger ball, stronger core, but a cleaner cover and a little bit of surface on that cover, that might pick up enough, but still be a little more angular into the pins and look great on the fill shot. Move over to the last pair, and I had a pretty decent look. I just threw a couple bad shots to not get more than 2-0, but came out of the block with 189 over for 7 games, which put me in, I think it was 4th on our squad, ended up 6th overall, and that's a really good position. I felt like a lot of the things I worked on after bowling in Chicago really helped me see the lane better, make better adjustments, create better ball motion, and also make some better shots. I didn't execute flawless today by any means. There's still some work to be done there, but my ball motion, my reactions were a lot better. So really happy about that. And just hard to, obviously there's still some criticisms to be had, but hard to not be positive with my performance today, with my result today. And just nice to actually see something good this season. So hopefully I can build on that tomorrow, execute even better, still have some good reaction. Tomorrow we bowl 22 people made the cut for the advances round. Pins carry forward. We bowl 5 games in the morning on fresh. Then they cut to the top 8 that bowl, I believe it's round robin match play on the fresh. So got to stay in that top 8, have 5 games to do that. Plan of attack is obviously trying to play out with the Iron Max again on the fresh, see how long that holds up. We're only going to be 1 on the lane, I believe. so it shouldn't be quite as much traffic, but obviously also going to pay it different. I will say I balled really well from out, and I actually, in the first 3 games, I had 770, 760, 770, and I missed the headpin 3 times, I think. So it wasn't like there was unlimited room out there, but I had to get fairly online with the right speed, otherwise it would shoot by out there. So if I'm not quite as sharp, or if it's just a little bit flatter out there or something, I might need to go and play the middle part of the lane a little bit earlier. So that's also going to be part of the game plan. I want to make sure I have some balls I can do that with earlier. Some balls with a little more surface, a little bit stronger balls that I can move into the middle part of the lane with, and create some control and some good ball motion in there, because they definitely seemed like early on they were a little tricky from the middle of the lane if your ball didn't do the right thing. So I want to make sure I got some options for doing that earlier on, so I don't get caught. But game plan A is definitely going to be out around the gutter, and we'll see from there. So fingers crossed. Hopefully I get to bowl a whole lot tomorrow and make a little run at the regional title number 2. So 5 games in the advances round to make it into the top 8. I got off to a pretty good start, shooting 230, 240, something like that, the first 2 games. Iron max with laydown around 5. Hit a tricky pair game 3, but bailed out 196. Then moved into the Sublime Focus, laydown around 20 for a 230 on a pretty good pair. Moved to the next pair, and by the end of that, I was laying the ball down at around 33 with a shiny gem, throwing it slow. So a little bit different that last pair, but bailed out the game pretty well, and made it fairly safely into the top 8, right in the middle of everything. So going into the last 8 games felt like anybody in the top 8. I think there's like 80 pins between 8th and 1st, so going into the last 8 games it felt like anybody could win. That changed pretty quickly though. We start the round robin, and Dio Bernard, only lefty in the field, decides to go 300, 300, front 8, spare, strike spare, front 10, and so he had 1160 for his first 4 games, 4 wins obviously. And yeah, that was pretty much the title decided there. So us 7 right-handers were bowling for second basically. And interestingly enough, it actually, like, through 7 games, it was basically still open to between 8th and 2nd. Like, it wasn't more than like 100 pins separating 2nd and 8th. So really, really tight all the way through. Like, if you bowled a big game, you were moving up pretty quickly. If you bowled a bad game, you were falling back pretty quickly. So no one ever got like shut out or went really far ahead. So that was kind of cool, when you just feel like you can always make up some spots, and if you don't perform, you drop down. It's much nicer than when everything's just kind of set in stone. Little recap of match play. My first match, I had a really good look on the fresh, just not in match play. My first 2 games, tried to do the same thing with the Iron Max playing out. Threw a couple bad shots, had game 2, one lane just hooked a ton more than the other, and just couldn't quite get the same reaction. The lanes were a little bit different, felt a little flatter, a little tighter on the gutter. Then game 3, all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, I shoot 290, and that's kind of what I meant. I didn't look at the standings, but I think after 2, I was probably last. And with that 290, I moved up to 3rd. So it just went up and down, and a lot of guys threw a lot of urethane, so that also made the transition quite different. They got really, really good towards the end, like really easy. But instead of like in qualifying, when you finished up the block, you were basically playing like 5th arrow, maybe between 5th and 6th arrow, depending on your rev rate, out to like 10. Now we were playing like between 3rd and 4th arrow out to 5, just because of all the urethane creating that carry down and having to go around that. So quite different. As I said, I started with the Iron Max. First 3 games, I think, 190, 190, 290, then kept playing out, switched to phase 2 from out there, 190, and then started making a move left and I think I got another 190, and then 230, 230, 230, the last 3 games, 3 wins to get to 6th. Not very far from being a little bit higher, but with what DU was doing, like nobody was going to catch him, so you just kind of tried to do whatever you could to get as high as possible, and did well. Positive things to take from this is obviously it was nice to see my ball strike, nice to get a pretty decent result. That's a little bit of a confidence booster and a little arm swing loosener. Threw the ball probably during match play. I probably threw the ball the best I had all tournament for that amount of games. I threw a lot of really good shots. I just threw a few too many that were really bad. Kind of like in Chicago, where one of the blocks, like I threw a lot of good shots, but then the bad ones were just really bad, and that was kind of the same thing here. No, don't know what caused those shots. They just came, but I did really a much better job at, for the most part, keeping the ball on the line I wanted it, not missing left. I wouldn't say I missed left a ton. My tendency during the whole tournament was missing left, and for the most part it was just a little bit. But outside of the really bad shots, I really fixed that in match play. A little bit different focus with my hand, how I got into the push away with my hand, and that felt like it got my shoulders in a little bit better spot. So happy about that. Happy to take that on to, well, this week because it's Monday, for the actual PBA stop here in Missouri, and hopefully put that to good use. And nice little tournament. Congrats to DU for absolutely dominating, and through the first 12 games of the tournament, basically letting us feel like we had a chance, and then just taking all the hope away from us. 10th regional title as, what is DU? 20? 21? 21 years old. That's pretty cool. So yeah, it was good. 6th place finish in Carthage. Really nice center. Almost brand new, and hope we get to go back there again. That was a really cool place. Really nice, fresh surface. But on to the PBA stop. Make sure you subscribe to get the videos from the last PBA stop of this little swing. And I will see you in Springfield, Missouri.